All members will please come to the floor. All members. Mr. Clerk, will you ring the bell and let our members know we're ready to get started? House will come to order. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to House Bill 579?
House Bill 579 by Representative Reeves of the 99th and others to be entitled an act to amend Title 43 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to professions and businesses so as revised provisions relating to licensure to engage in the practice of a profession, business, or trade in this state. This bill having been referred to the Committee on Appropriations, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Representative Matt Reeves is recognized to present House Bill 579.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House colleagues, House Bill 579 is the product of the Blue Ribbon Professional Licensing Study Committee. I want to thank Chairman Hatchett for co-chairing it with the Senate. I want to thank the Majority Leader, Chairman Marcus Wiedauer, Chairman Prince for leading that effort, as well as House Regulated Industries Chairman Powell for working on this issue of professional licensing for many years. What this bill does is it provides better constituent services. It brings professional licensing into the 21st century. It gives what the people of Georgia and our small businesses deserve, which is a better professional licensing system so that hardworking Georgians and small businesses can get to work and not have to fool around with burdensome regulations during licensing. It also gives the Professional Licensing Division the authority to grant licenses that are in order, and it frees up our boards to focus on bad actors. Mr. Speaker, if there are no questions, I yield the well.
The gentleman has no questions.
Thank you.
The gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to withdrawing the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is withdrawn. Is there any objection to adopting the substitute offered by the Committee on Rules? Hearing none, the Rules Committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? Have all members voted? All members voted? If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? On the passage of House Bill 579, the yeas are 158 and the nays are 2. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to House Bill 549? 549.
House Bill 549 by Representative Seaball of the 34th and others to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 35.822 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to reimbursement of training expenses by subsequent employer or peace officer. This bill having referred to the Committee on Public Safety and Homeland Security, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Representative Seaball is recognized to present the bill, House Bill 549.
Thank you, Speakers. Members of the House, I rise today to present House Bill 549. Under current Georgia law, a law enforcement agency may seek reimbursement for mandated training expenses when a peace officer is trained by one agency and hired away by another within 15 months of completing that training. Last year, the required mandating training was increased by 50% from 400 hours to 800 hours. And all House Bill 459 does is extend the reimbursement window from 15 months to 36 months, ensuring agencies have a fair opportunity to recover their investment in their officers' training. And that is the bill, and I'll stand for any questions. Mr. Speaker?
The gentleman has no questions.
Thank you. I yield the well.
The gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? Have all members voted? All members now voted. If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? On the passage of House Bill 549, the yeas are 164. The nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption of House Bill 150?
House Bill 150 by Representative Fleming of the 114th be titled an act to amend Part 2 of Article 2, Chapter 3, Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to the university system so as to require quarterly reports regarding certain funding received from individuals or entities related to China. This bill having referred to the Committee on Higher Education, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Representative Fleming is recognized to present the bill. Representative Tim Fleming.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, I bring to you today House Bill 150. It is the Combating Threats from Foreign Countries of Concern Act for 2025 regarding higher education. Foreign countries of concern means a country whose government is designated as a foreign adversary by the United States Secretary of Commerce. What House Bill 150 does, it promotes transparency in foreign funding to our higher ed institutions in Georgia through the university system to report quarterly to the General Assembly and to the governor on any funding received from these foreign countries of concern, other than simple tuition payments for an individual. It requires the university system to track and report the type of funding, its source, and its amount, its purpose, and to document its basis. Mr. Speaker, that is House Bill 150, and if there are no questions, I'd yield the well.
You have a question to your left. Representative Ramon is recognized for a question.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Why do we always limit these bills to a specific list? Because sometimes there are some unique circumstances we have to be on the lookout for in the state of Georgia. So wouldn't it make more sense, for the sake of transparency, to get a full report on all the possible foreign funding that our universities are getting?
So this is a moving list, so it changes. It could change month to month, week to week, with countries coming on and coming off. And that's why we used that language, because it's actually a list that the Secretary of Commerce, Department of Commerce, puts out and updates pretty regularly.
Does the gentleman further yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so I'm aware of how this list works. And my issue with it is that, one, like you mentioned, it does move around a lot, which creates uncertainty for creating these types of reports. And my concern is that when we are so narrowly focused on just one thing, we do risk missing other potential threats. So that's where my question is coming from. Thank you.
Gentleman has one more question. Representative Jasmine Clark to your left.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Briefly, we had a chat about this in committee, and while I understand the premise of this bill, my biggest concern is that it labels any individual who lives in one of these foreign countries as a person or an individual of concern, and I just have a some heartburn about just labeling anyone who lives in one of these places as a concerning individual.
Yes, ma'am. We had that
Is that true?
discussion in committee through the hearing, and it does say in the bill they have to be domiciled in those countries. And this is not pertaining to tuition. So anybody who's paying tuition that is not is not pertained to. It's just for all other funds that are people who are domiciled in those countries. But yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well.
The gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? On the passage of House Bill 150, the yeas are 145, the nays are 22. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to House Bill 288? 288.
House Bill 288 by Representative Gaines and the 120th and others to be titled an act to amend Article 2, Chapter 6 of Title 5, Chapter 4, Chapter 9, Article 1 of Chapter 18, and Title 15, and Chapter 16 of Title 17 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to appellate practice, declaratory judgments, prosecuting attorneys, and criminal trials. This bill having referred to the Committee on Public Safety and Homeland Security. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Representative Houston Gaines is recognized to present House Bill 288.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 288, I believe, is a common sense bill that will provide due process for law enforcement officers when accused by a prosecutor of not being credible or being put on what's so-called a Giglio or Brady list. Currently, a prosecutor can single-handedly ruin a police officer's career by putting a cop on such a list with no due process. When put on a Brady-Giglio list, getting a new job for an officer becomes almost impossible because their credibility has been questioned. It's important that if an officer does have a real credibility issue, that can be resolved and investigated. Currently, the officer is just placed on such a list and there is no investigation. House Bill 288 will provide necessary due process for officers by ensuring a review of posts upon an accusation by a prosecutor, which must provide the factual basis for putting an officer on such a list. It also ensures an officer cannot be disciplined solely for being put on the list until an investigation has been resolved and the officer has been found to have acted improperly. The bill requires posts to be notified in the officer's employing agency, which will then be required to notify the officer. Currently, some officers don't even know if they're put on such a list. It also ensures the investigation occurs, so if the officer does have a credibility issue, that can be resolved, and if there's an officer who's done something wrong, they would no longer be employed. I will note that in its initial form, the prosecutors in the state had some concerns. We worked very closely with PAC to address those concerns. I believe we've crafted a piece of legislation that resolves those issues. And so I also want to say thank you to Representative Matt Reeves and Chairman Clint Crow, Chairman Tyler Paul Smith, who worked with us on this. Several states have recently addressed this issue. North Carolina, Iowa, and Minnesota are just a couple examples. And Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to answer a question or two if there are any.
The gentleman has no questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the will.
The gentleman is yielded the will. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? On the passage of House Bill 288, the yeas are 146, the nays are 20. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Members, I'm going to take a speaker's moment here. I have a good friend who just came into the gallery of the House, Mr. John William Meeks, and his fourth and fifth grade class from down in Wayne County, Georgia. The gifted class is here visiting with us today, so let's make them welcome. Y'all stand up, let us see who you are. Stand up, John William. Thank you, members. That's the folks who will be sitting in our seats for too long. Safe travels, y'all. Y'all be safe. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption of House Bill 583? 583.
House Bill 583 by Representative Glaze of the 67th and others to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 40-85.1 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating license plates for certain veterans so as to increase the number of free license plates issued to certain veterans. This bill having referred to the Committee on Motor Vehicles. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Representative Glaze, are you ready? Ladies recognized to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and my esteemed colleagues. Happy Crossover Day. Today I rise for your favorable consideration of HB 583. This bill is just a simple upgrade of recognition and relief to the veterans in our state. It is our honor always to show gratitude to all our veterans. Today, we know that they've dedicated themselves in years past, serving and protecting this nation, often facing significant challenges, sacrifices during their military careers. In recognition of those who became disabled while serving, this bill will allow them to have a second free license plate, which they can use for their spouse, another vehicle, or a motorcycle. Caveat here, my husband is a disabled vet, and I'm in line behind the motorcycle if this passes to get a tag on my car. 40 years, I'm still second. This bill is supported by servicemen, women, retired veterans, disabled veterans, VSOs, VFWs, and other veteran organizations. I ask your favorable consideration of this second tag for our veterans. Mr. Speaker, I yield for questions.
You have a question. I kind of thought I saw this one coming, but I wasn't sure. Representative Hefner to your left. Kind of thought she might have a question on this one. The lady's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the lady yield?
Yes.
Would it not be my honor in my county to be able to advise the constituents that come in and ask, why can I only get one plate when we have two vehicles? This will allow that family the same security, and they can additionally still receive their handicap placard. Thank you for your work, madam.
The military veteran knows of what she speaks.
The lady did a great job. She has no further questions.
Mr. Speaker, I yield the well.
The lady has yielded well. Thank you for the bill. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? Have all members voted? For what purpose does Chairman Prince rise?
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to House Rule 133, I ask to be excused from this vote.
The gentleman has that privilege. The record will so reflect. Have all members now voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of House Bill 583, the yeas are 171, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Congratulations, Representative Glaze. Appreciate you. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption of House Bill 484? 484.
House Bill 484 by Representative Yurda, the 152nd and others, to be entitled an act to amend Title 2080 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to General Assembly so as to provide for the digitization and electronic publication of the Georgia laws. This bill then refers to the Committee on Code Revision. That committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Representative Yurda, you're recognized to present House Bill 484. Chairman Yurda.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I bring you House Bill 484, which is for the Georgia law books, which are the tan books in your office rather than the black code books. What this bill does is allow the books to be published in either hard copy form or digital form. And maintaining the digital option can improve accessibility to everyone. And it's also important that this becomes law because it's often difficult to find a cost-effective publisher these days. So I ask for your favorable consideration on this bill.
Gentleman has no questions.
I yield the well.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? Have all members voted? Have all members voted this? So, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? On the passage of House Bill 484, the yeas are 173, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to House Bill 529, 529?
House Bill 529 by Representative Barrett of the 24th and others to be entitled an act to amend Title 13 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to contracts so as to provide consumers with the option of having service contracts that contain automatic renewal provisions terminate. This bill having referred to the Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
I'm going to recognize the majority leader for a motion on this bill, on House Bill 529. Why does the gentleman, for what purpose is gentleman regs?
Make a motion.
State your motion.
Mr. Speaker, I move that House Bill 529 be recommitted to the Rules Committee.
Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption?
House Bill 529 by Representative Barrett of the 24th to be entitled an act to amend Title 13 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to contracts so as to provide consumers with the option of having service contracts that contain automatic renewal provisions terminate.
On the gentleman's motion that House Bill 529 be recommitted to the Rules Committee, is there objection? Hearing none, is so ordered. Mr. Clerk, could you read the caption of House Bill 530, 530?
House Bill 530 by Representative Leverett of the 123rd to be entitled an act to amend Article 4, Chapter 9 and Title 15 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to time, place, and procedure so as to provide for the authorization for the electronic filings of pleadings in probate court. This bill having referred to the Committee on Judiciary, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chairman Leverett is recognized to present the bill. Have you presented this one the last 2 or 3 years? Is this the first time?
No, Mr. Speaker, this is a firster.
All right. Gentleman's recognized.
Maiden voyage of this one. Ladies and gentlemen, House Bill 530 simply authorizes electronic filing in civil cases in probate court. The statute is based on the one that I think this body passed several years ago for electronic filing in Superior Court. The statute addresses the limitations on the vendor and what they can charge and what they can charge for, people that they have to allow to file without charge, and those kinds of things. The Council of Probate Judges has requested it, and it just requires that they be ready by January 1 of 2028. So they've got some time to prepare and get ready to implement the system. And that's all that the bill does, Mr. Speaker. And I'll be glad to answer any questions.
The gentleman has a question to your left. Representative Evans is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Isn't it true that we both love our probate judges so much and we both hope that this bill passes unanimously?
Yes, that is true. I'm so delighted to hear that's true.
Thank you.
The lady had me nervous for a minute. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman has no further questions.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you again for your support. And since the Gib Lewis quote the other day went so well, I've got 2 more for you today. I want to thank each and every one of you for having extinguished yourselves during this session of the legislature. And my favorite one, this is unparalleled in this state's history. Thank you, and I yield the well.
I don't think you were authorized to do that, Mr. Chairman. But since I was paralyzed, I guess you could. Gentlemen's yielded the will. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? On the passage of House Bill 530, 530, the yeas are 174, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Representative Panich. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption of House Bill 460, 460?
House Bill 460 by Representative Panich of the 51st and others to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 24.5.501 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to certain communications privileged so as to exclude from evidence certain communications made between an attorney and client when the client is in a penal institution. This bill having referred to the Committee on Judiciary and Non-Civil, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Representative Panich is recognized to present the bill.
Good afternoon, colleagues. This is a simple bill, and it's something that many of us already thought was the law. While a client is in a penal institution, the sheriff, law enforcement cannot record the conversation between a lawyer and their client. It is a sacrosanct privilege and one that we need to make sure is now codified into law. The prosecutors and the sheriffs have no objection to this bill. I yield for any questions.
Lady has no questions. I think Representative Ramon, her button may be pushed, but I don't see her at her desk.
Oh, it's stuck.
There, it's unstuck now. Lady has no questions. Ladies yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee's substitute? Hearing none, the committee's substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? Have all members voted? For what purpose would Representative Roberts rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Isn't it true that we somehow missed that this is Representative Panich's first bill, and I think we're a little too, oh, it's not? I thought she said it was. Yeah, it is. And I think we are a little too easy on her.
I saw that hamburglar outside, so Representative Panich came in and burglarized the well there and got out. I'm going to ask the representative to come back up and join me up front. Well, can I do that, Mr. Clerk? She yielded the well. I'll get her back up here. Don't worry. Oh, there she is right there. No, you've yielded the well, so I'm afraid I can't do it, but you'll pay for it. I know rules were made to be broken, but I'm not going to break this one, Mr. Whip. The lady has yielded the well. Have all members voted? It's getting closer all the time. Have all members voted? If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Representative Panich, you pulled a fast one on the speaker, and he won't forget it either. I can go ahead and tell you that now. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption of House Bill 647.
House Bill 647 by Representative Donna Tucci of the 105th to be entitled an act to amend an act to incorporate the city of Mulberry. This bill having been referred to the Committee on Intergovernmental Coordination, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Representative Donna Tucci is recognized to present the bill. Representative Donna Tucci.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members. Thank you for hearing this bill today. This bill is about annexing 45 small parcels into Mulberry. All of these parcels are in my district. My background is in land use. I served as a county planning commissioner. When I was running for office, one of the most frequent complaints raised by voters to me, besides inflation, was the issue of growth in Gwinnett County, specifically high-density apartments and the rapid pace of growth and overburdening local infrastructure. The city of Mulberry was born out of this frustration and the request of the people, giving citizens within the city local control over planning and zoning. Now that I've been elected, I can do something to help give my constituents more control over growth in our community. This annexation bill simply allows the city of Mulberry to expand into my district, adding roughly 45 parcels to the city limits. These parcels are a mix of residential dwellings, commercial properties, and undeveloped land, primarily located along one road on the north end of my district. Moving these parcels into the city of Mulberry will allow my constituents to have a greater local voice over how this land is developed and used in the future, allowing decisions to be made by 5 locally elected city councilmen rather than a majority of county commissioners who do not live in the community. Mr. Speaker, I yield for any questions.
You have one question to your right up the center aisle. Representative Gamble is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentlelady yield?
I do.
Just for clarification, the city of Mulberry doesn't have anything to do with the palmetto berry, does it?
It does not.
All right, thank you.
I think this is the first time I've seen the lady in the well, I believe, isn't it?
No.
Oh, it's not the first time I've seen it. Just checking. Representative Washburn to your left is recognized for a question. Way to your left. To the any room door.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Will the gentlelady yield for a question?
I do.
Is this your first time in the well to present a bill?
It is my first time to present a bill, yes.
Okay. Will you yield for another question?
I do.
Are there any mulberry bushes in the city of Mulberry?
There used to be.
Thank you.
We're going to take a couple more questions for the lady from Mulberry, and then we have a couple of folks that want to speak to the bill. For what purpose? No, let's see. Chairman Stevens is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Way over to your left. As I recall, Barney Fife is from Mayberry. Is that not true? Does he live in your town?
He used to.
Uh-oh. The gentlelady, thank you.
Thank you.
I think he was author of the bill last year. But, lady, yield for another question?
For one more, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Martin to your right, former mayor of a small city that's grown to be a big city, is recognized for a question.
Lady Yule.
I do.
Is it true? I appreciate the questions and them kidding you a little bit about the name of the city, but this is a serious question. Isn't it true what the lady's trying to do is bring government closer to the people, and you can do this without an increase in their taxes?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I yield the well.
Lady proceeds like a veteran. She's yielded the well. Good move. So we do have a couple of folks to speak in opposition. I'm going to give them 7 minutes each to speak to the bill. Up to 7 minutes. You don't have to take that long. Representative Jasmine Clark is recognized to speak to the bill, HB 647. Give the lady your attention, please.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Today I rise in opposition to House Bill 647. As the chair of the Gwinnett delegation, my concerns about this bill are based on procedure and precedence. Let's be clear, House Bill 647 is a hyper-local bill that annexes certain county properties into the city of Mulberry. If you remember, the city of Mulberry was created when the cityhood process that normally takes about 2 years was expedited through this chamber and took only 20 days in the last legislative session, to the objection of the majority of the Gwinnett delegation. During debate, we stated that when you rush the process, it will lead to issues. And alas, here we are. Less than a year later, and we are seeing bills that try to annex additional properties. And hey, I get it, annexations happen. But in Gwinnett County, we have a very specific delegation process in order to maintain the integrity of the local legislative process. And we have successfully used that local process for other annexations, including this year, where we are doing some annexation in the city of Lawrenceville. Our process is quite simple. The city and the county go to the table and negotiate about the properties to be annexed. When negotiations are complete, the city and the county notify the members of the delegation. Legislation is drafted by legislative council, and then in a bipartisan manner, a majority of our delegation members sign the bill. It then goes through the local legislation process of the Intergovernmental Coordination Committee. This process works, it has worked, and it recognizes that while bills must come through the legislature, we respect our local governments and will not force things down their throat. Moving this very local bill as a general bill through this body in an effort to skirt the rules that both Republicans and Democrats signed on to. And let me be clear, I have placed Article 3 of our delegation rules on everyone's desk for you all to see. In Section 3, we specify how annexations are supposed to be done in Gwinnett County. We had a majority of our delegation, including the sponsor of this bill, sign on to these rules. So a vote for yes on this bill is a vote against local control and local government. It basically states that you are okay with the state going behind your back, snatching up properties from your county without allowing you to even come to the table. I sincerely believe that most of us do not want that happening in our counties. Let's protect the integrity of the local delegation process. Vote no on this bill so that we can actually do this process the proper way. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I yield the well.
The lady has yielded the well. Whip Park, Representative Sam Park is recognized to speak to the bill. Representative Park.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, I rise in opposition to House Bill 647. You know, I think it's important, especially in the political environment, to remember the importance of the rule of law. We are a nation. What's made us great as a nation is respecting the rule of law. And yet this bill demonstrates that might makes right, which is unfortunate. Now, I rise today to speak against House Bill 647 for the following reasons. As public servants, our duty is to uphold the interests of our constituents and ensure government serves them, not the other way around. This bill, which seeks to expand the corporate limits of the city of Mulberry, and there's 2 or 3 additional Mulberry-related bills because the process was not followed. The Rules of Government Affairs Committee was not followed with respect to creating the city of Mulberry. Through annexation, this raises serious concerns about property right, taxation, and government overreach. First and foremost, we must protect private property rights. This is one of the foundations of our democracy, which is the right to own and control property. Yet this bill proposes to annex numerous parcels of land, and we must ask, have all affected property owners been consulted? Has there been a local ad notice provided for this legislation? Are we respecting their right to choose how their land is governed and whether or not they want to be forcibly annexed into this new city? That's resulted in litigation and unnecessary fights that's divided and exacerbated partisan flames unnecessarily. This bill represents an unnecessary expansion of government power. We should be focused on reducing bureaucracy, not expanding it, not forcing an additional layer of government on people without their consent. We cannot ignore the financial consequences of this annexation. With expanded city limits come increased taxes, municipal fees, other hidden costs that will be passed on to homeowners and small businesses, again without their consent. Many of our constituents are already struggling to keep up with the rising costs of living. Why add to their burden? Our job is to fight for lowering costs and for responsible spending, not imposing unknown and uncertain financial hardships on working families. Now, zoning and land use regulations are another major concern. When a city annexes property, it imposes new zoning restrictions and land use rules. What was once under Gwinnett County's governance will now be subject to different regulations, potentially limiting how property owners can use their land. Again, these property owners having no opportunity to voice whether or not they want to be included or excluded in this city. This is a state government forcing upon the people of Georgia a decision which they have no notice or opportunity to decide upon. This bill also weakens county governance and local control. Gwinnett County has managed these areas effectively, and there is no clear reason why city oversight would be an improvement. Gwinnett County is one of the few counties, the second largest in the state of Georgia, that has a AAA bond rating. Where is the written documentation and, again, an opportunity for voters to determine their own future with their homes, with their own property? So where does it end? If we approve this annexation, we open the door for an additional forced annexations, forced city expansions without the consent of the governed, more state government overreach and disruption for affected communities. Now, I'm a member of the minority party, and hopefully that won't be the case all the time. But I want to ask members of the majority, what would you do if you were in the minority and the state government forcibly annexed parts of your district that you represent? That's what this is about. We must consider the long-term consequences of setting this precedent. Finally, and I think most importantly, we demand transparency and voter input. The residents of these areas will not have an opportunity to vote on this change. Does this legislation have a referendum? No. Then this process fundamentally lacks democratic legitimacy. We should not be making decisions that fundamentally alter the governance of a community without ensuring that the people have had their voices heard. And so again, colleagues, House Bill 647 is not just about adjusting city limits. It is about standing up for property rights. It is about standing up for fiscal responsibility and the principles of limited government. It's ensuring that we are a nation of rules and we demonstrate that as leaders with our actions, rather than perpetuating the falsity that might makes right, the falsity that if you're in the majority, you can do whatever you want because you have the votes. So for all these reasons, I urge all members in this body to vote no to House Bill 647. Let's stand together in defense of common sense American principles and responsible governance. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well.
Thank you, Mr. Whip. The gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? On the passage of House Bill 647, the yeas are 98, the nays are 76. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. All right, here's our posture, members. This House is going to stand in recess until 3:30 p.m. today. Think y'all can? Mr. Chairman, I'm going to recognize you. You think you can get your work done by 3:15? That would be better if you can. Okay, let's revise that plan. Best laid plans of mice and men. This House will be back in action at 3:15. 3:15. Rules Chairman is recognized for an announcement. The Rules Chairman recognized for an announcement. Give the gentleman your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to inform the Rules Committee. We're going to be having a Rules Committee meeting at 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock. See you in room 341. Thank you.
Rules Committee at 3 o'clock. We're back here to go back to work at 3:15. This House will stand in recess until 3:15.